All right. So, hello everyone. So for today's video, the one of the motion recommendations that I got from you guys was the ESL Final of Worlds, which is this house welcomes the end of work. So let's just get right into it. All right, game. So yeah, let's start the prep time. I guess like when you look at this motion, one thing you'll immediately think about is uh there is a sense of inevitability with respect to the end of work. I think that it's quite a futile attempt, actually, rather, if you were to try and say that the end of work were not to happen. And so I think the best way to approach this from opening government, if I were to prep this motion, would just be to imagine what the best case of opposition is. Like, what is the best manifestation of of what their approach to debate would be. And in my opinion, it would simply be that work is valuable. So I op would likely say that work is valuable, it is meaningful, and it should continue, right? And by as a consequence, it just shouldn't end, right? And that the end of work would be bad for humanity. And they're likely going to discuss like what this would mean if we were to reimagine a world without work, and that would simply be worse for XYZ reasons if I were opposition. I think that would be a fantastic opposition case. Like, not even just on the principle, right? The principle on if work is meaningful for people, whether like anything else can replace that work. But I think opposition could also explain like right now I'm already imagining that opposition would simply say that a world without work would just mean that um it would be a more unequal world. It would be a world where people don't get to like have that type of, that competitiveness, that aspiration, the motivation to do things that immerse themselves and allow them to do all of these other things. So I think that that case would be brilliant at opposition. And if I were government, I'd probably approach this in a few ways. And I think that um part of why this exercise was necessary in the first place to think about the opposition case is to really just imagine how would I want to characterize work in gov side in order for me to explain that the end of work, it would be a good thing for humanity. So I would say two things. My first argument would likely be that the end of work is good for human flourishing. Well, which I would say is just a term that I think would encompass like the fulfillment of the human soul, or some sort of happiness, but not really just happiness. It's some sort of deeper sense of fulfillment, which is why I chose this word in particular. Like, for those that were asking some questions on like what words do you want to choose, and why do you choose the words that you do, I think this is a simple enough word that encompasses that it's not just happiness but something that is deeper. The second argument I would probably run is that the end of work is in response to the opposition argument that it would make for a worse world, or like social dynamics and power imbalances would increase. I would simply say that the end of work is good for fairness and equality. So I would say that it would make for an equal and fair world. And likely when I'm imagining this argument already, I already know that part of what this encompasses is some understanding of like what happens after work, which is that we say that it is likely that after work human society would revolve around some sort of universal basic income that individuals will all be able to avail. I guess that's kind of like redundant because it's already universal, and then you say all individuals will be able to avail it. But just to be clear, that's what we're saying. We say that all human people will have this incentive to have this basic welfare that they can all access. And states would have the incentive to do so. Humans would have an incentive to avail of this because it's part of how they would want to structure themselves, and be able to spend on things that they want. And this is also going to be fine for all of those other reasons. What I don't know yet in the argument, and we can probably add this later, is I know that later on I want to add in some framing here in this argument that this might be in response to like some of the op arguments on like resolving inequality as a consequence of doing work, like immersing in your work so you could earn more money than others. The harder that you work allows for you to like climb the ladder, the social ladder, and to break structures of inequality that already exist. So UP may explain that you can work to break structures of inequality. But this misses the fact that working is very hard and it is very difficult and tiresome, and that a lot of structures of privilege and inheritance, you know, like the reasons as to why inequality most likely exists today, are rooted in the way in which a vast majority of society is simply enslaved as a consequence of work, right? Alright, so now I know this is my second argument. I know this is what I want to do. That's how I address the pragmatic aspect of this debate. That's how I also address the principle of that. Now we can go into the, at least the more difficult part on the argument on the end of work being good for human flourishing. And now I'm thinking, when I'm like already in this argument, I know that in order for me to run this principle very well, I do need to have at least a cohesive explanation of what the end of work would look like. So what would the end of work look like, or likely look like? Well, it simply means an end to this wage-based system of earning, wage-based system of work. You seek for employment, you seek for a job, you seek for some association to any business that is in the realm of profit making, and you are rewarded for the amount of effort, work, hours, or whatever that you put in. And of course, this encompasses all forms of work, and even all variations of work, right? Like everything that stems from what we know as work, you know, like whether that be like a hobby turned into a job, or an internship for work experience. All of these are inseparable from our notions of work being an all centralizing aspect of life. So when we mean the end of work, we don't just mean like the end of, like, you know, the capitalist system or whatever, right? I hope that's like that's quite clear here. It is the end of all things associated with a working system where you work for someone in authority, which is a company or a business, or even, for example, even yourself, right? Compensates you for that work. And then the most likely manifestation of human work being replaced is by it being replaced is through automation and through the development of strong AI. And I think this is perfectly fine. We don't need to dwell too much into like the dynamics of like, oh, there's gonna be monopolization of this, or like the competition for AI is going to be very disruptive, or it's gonna be very damaging to the human population. I will say that these are still amazing arguments for opposition. But if I were government, it's in my incentive rather to say that the disruption caused by AI is something we could like throw aside or at least mitigate significantly. So it's my incentive to try and frame this as saying that no matter how this happens, even in the worst case where people's jobs are disrupted and they lose a lot of this, we say we will defend this and say this is good, because this is a debate about this is a debate fundamentally, sorry. This is a debate fundamentally about humanity and how we should move forward. So it's about future generations, and about all peoples. So that's the way I would probably want to try and outframe opposition if they were trying to meddle this debate with, like, like this dynamics of, oh, it must only be about like the short term. I want to already outframe this significantly by saying it's about the long term. It's about what work means for all of us, even those that are gonna get disrupted today. And we say that this is good, that the end of work happens. Like, we don't know if it's gonna happen tomorrow. We actually don't know if it's gonna happen in the next 10 years. But the fact that the end of work would happen, right? Because the debate is a welcomes motion in this particular sense about the inevitability of the end of work happening, and that we're evaluating whether this is good for humanity or not, then I'd be fantastic. I'd say that yes, we welcome this. I'm welcoming the hardline principle of this debate. And now, with our last few minutes, this is common. It happens a lot. We will finally do our argument. Now, what does the end of work mean? And why is it good for human flourishing? So why does work cause unhappiness for all people under all circumstances? And then we look at what is inherent to the transaction of work. Inherent to the transaction of work, there is dissatisfaction with the effort that you put in. There is there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect with the reward of work, which is the money and the effort that you put in. And then there is it separates you from others, like social comparisons, your family and your friends, etc. I want to try and like make this as inherent as possible. My incentive for this argument, I want to make it as clear as possible as being connected to work. So I'm trying to look at every aspect of what it means to work at something. So the first one it's a dissatisfaction with the effort that you put in. You have this imagination of what work is, like the ideal of work, and how you imagine it can benefit you, but you know that your efforts are always going to be futile and never going to achieve the highest ends that you would always aspire for, because these goalposts are always shifting, and because you are aging and becoming older, and you will always change, right? So like these are kind of like the I would say these are sub incremental reasons that help build our principle here. Like, you know that all types of work, you are dissatisfied with the work that you are in, that you expect a job, you get into it, you get into the rote habit of that job, and it consumes your life entirely, and this becomes your life. This is not a preferable situation. You are tied to this work. That is why it is akin to slavery. That is why it is akin to a loss of autonomy in significant ways. Number two, it disconnects you with the reward of work and the effort that you put in. So I'd frame this as an even if, right? So even if you feel that the work you put in is meaningful in some way, the reward massively, the reward of money, like, again, when we say money here, we mean like the system of commercialization, the system of being tied to an employer, and the system of needing to stay in this particular job in order to get more financing and to survive, right? Like this system of the fact that you need to survive by working, and that it becomes a necessity rather than just something that helps you or makes you feel wonderful or meaningful in this life. You feel something that, like, there's an insufficiency in your life, that money does not fill in. Money does not fill in the gap that you seek seek in this life. And I think this is obviously a quite controversial statement. Because the implicit assumption of this argument is that we say that there are other things that are great in life, and that's what the last part wants to deal with, right? That it separates you from others. Well, what is humanity about, right? It is about our ability to have control over our social relations, to connect more deeply with the people that we love. Now, my strategy would be, I'd say this is fantastic. This is the most important thing. That relationships are the things that matter the most. When you look at someone that is in their deathbed, the biggest regret they would always have is that they worked more than they spent time with their family. And I would simply say that, I would eventually frame this in the argument and say that, like, any pursuit in life must be connected to that human connection. And I think opposition's best argument would try and be to say that, like, work connects you with others, but we would say that the way in which the environment of work is situated, the way in which it creates a community that is based on a workforce environment, that separates you from that deeper human connection with other people. And I love this argument, and obviously we can conclude it later, but I think for this prep time we've been sufficient in trying to unpack a lot of this, right? We're trying to unpack what we wanted to say in this argument. So yeah, what's the learning from this particular prep time? I think there's a lot, actually. Like, we know that there is, like, the motion which is, you know, like, in some sense is quite a surprise or a difference in the way we usually approach debate. And here we know that we want to, like, bite in with the hardest bullet, or try to embrace our highest principle and embrace the absolute best case of opposition, and then we want to make our case on that basis. We even have some incentives to try and outframe some aspects, and try and frame our particular understanding of work with everything that is deeper to humanity. And then, if you notice, like in this one, like, I wanted to get immediately out, like, the pragmatic stuff out of my brain, and then spend more of my mental resources on making the argument itself, which is, I think, the more critical part of this debate. Well, not to say that the second argument was unimportant, but that we know that, like, the first argument will be the first clash that we would have to surpass and overcome in this particular prep time. All right, so that's pretty much it. Have a wonderful day and enjoy. Thanks, guys.